Venables and his 2024 Oklahoma Sooners are a wild card heading into the season, in my opinion. You can make the case that Venables is batting .500 in his first two seasons in Norman. 2022, the 6-7 finish, very disappointing in his first year. 2023, though, I thought was a massive step in the right direction. They finished 10-3, really a 2-week period in Lawrence and Stillwater cost them a shot at a potential Big 12 title. Now, that brings us to Venables' third season as the head man in Norman, and it brings Oklahoma. And it brings us to Oklahoma's first season in the SEC. So with that being said, what would be considered a successful season for Oklahoma in 2024? I am your host, Dave Shumate, coming at you here from the SEC Unfiltered platform here. But before we get started, guys, do not forget to go visit our buddy SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com and use promo SECU for $20 off of your first purchase. We got the SEC tournament in Hoover, Alabama starting next week. We got kickoff times announcing. We got Florida, Miami, 3:30 Eastern already kicked off. Go get with SeatGeek. Georgia, Clemson, 12 Eastern at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Go get with SeatGeek. Remember, $20 off your first purchase using the code SECU. Now, before I break down a black and white number, just win total number, I always give that at the end. I want to go over two to three things I would want to see if I'm an Oklahoma fan. First, the line of scrimmage play on both sides of the ball. I want to see it improve as the year goes on. I know they lost too much and a little bit of inexperience, unproven play on the defensive line, position. So I know it's not going to be firing on all cylinders in September, but I want to see some things. I want to see as November rolls around, this unit getting better. Both units get better. But OU has two new coordinators, and Seth Luttrell coming over from North Texas after being the head coach at North Texas. He is the new OC for Brent Venables. Then Zach Alley coming over from Jacksonville State has a history with Brent Venables at his time at Clemson. But all three position coaches in this specific topic on the line of scrimmage return. Offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh and Todd Bates on the interior of their defensive line, and Miguel Chavis with the defensive end. So offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh has his hands full rolling into 2024, replacing 5 contributors. That's difficult for anybody. That is literally difficult for any program out there. I think if you really asked Oklahoma, they like some pieces they brought in. Branson Hickman, the center from SMU, Michael Tarquin, the guard from USC. I think Bedenbaugh would tell you he would have liked for some of these guys in the spring, some of these spots to already be filled. But at this point, this looks to be a developmental group that hopes to improve as the season progresses. I mean, other than Wee-Woo manning one of the guard spots, the other 4 spots are up for grabs. I mean they are. So, again, I'm not expecting this unit to be rocking on all cylinders when Temple rolls to town or even by the Tulane game week 3. I don't expect that. I think this is a unit that's going to get better as the season goes on. I think Bill Bedenbaugh does a phenomenal job at Oklahoma. He's up for the task. I just think this is something when you're talking about the 2024 campaign, first year in the SEC, a line of scrimmage league, you want to see this unit get better as the season continues to go. That's something to keep an eye on. Then let's just go to the other side of the ball on the defensive line. I think the coaches would tell you they feel like they built some depth, but a lot of it is unproven. Dom Williams, the TCU transfer, was a crucial pickup for Oklahoma, getting him over LSU. I thought that was massive. I mean, I like true freshman David Stone and Jaden Jackson. Just it's tough to trust freshmen to come in and play immediately in the league. Young cats coming to play early in the league. I think Davin Sears is back. They like Grayson Holton. He's stood out a few times. Dejon Terry, Big DT's back. Know him personally from recruiting him at Kansas. They unfortunately lost Jacob Lacey due to blood clots, and he played the most snaps of anyone on the interior of the defensive line. Marcus Strong, like I mentioned, Davin Sears, he's another guy. I'm looking at the depth chart now that they flashed at times. They've been in the program for a bit. So I think they like those guys. I think they like the depth they've built up, but just not a lot of proven production, especially with Lacey being out, who had played the most snaps in the defensive tackle spot before being ruled medically ineligible. But the personnel on the defense side of the ball, I think it's getting better. And will it be there in September? I don't know. I feel a little bit better about this group than I do the offensive line unit, but I don't know if it'll be there in September. I doubt it would. But I'll say this. The defensive personnel has improved tremendously since Brent Venables has been there. It has. I mean, much better than Lincoln Riley or Alex Grinch was recruiting on that side of the ball. So that's improving. It's getting to the SEC level that it's going to need to be for Venables and Oklahoma to compete for an SEC championship. Now, the back seven, I think the linebacker group's really deep. I'm surprised some guys didn't transfer. Danny Stutzman, Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie. I like the back end guys too in the secondary. Woody Washington, Billy Bowman. We know all about those guys. Oklahoma fans know about those. I like those guys. And a lot of teams are real thin at the linebacker spot. Oklahoma's not. It's getting that defensive line unit fixed. And I think they got talent. It's just like, it's depth. It's just proven depth. I believe Venables is getting this roster to where it is. So those are my two concerns on both lines of scrimmage, on the offensive line of scrimmage and on the defensive line of scrimmage. Something to keep an eye on. Can both those units improve in a league that's a line of scrimmage league? And it's going to have to improve as the schedule keeps getting harder. So that's something to keep an eye on too. And then Jackson Arnold, we've seen him. It was some real highs and lows. You love the upside. May have the highest upside, one of the highest upsides in the league. I think he was 4 interceptions to 3 touchdowns last year. Got some minutes against BYU and then against Arizona in the Alamo Bowl. Really, what I say, he needs to be more in the middle this year. When I say that, you need to see more stat lines of 3 touchdowns, 1 interception stat lines instead of 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, or 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, or 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You don't need to be throwing more than 2 interceptions in a game. I understand it's going to happen, but you need to get a little bit of that, get outside of that Brett Favre Texas gunslinger mentality. I even heard some scrimmages from people who've been there. They're like, made some good throws, had 2 touchdowns, but also had 2 to 3 interceptions too that could kill us. So I think if I'm Seth Luttrell, if I'm Brent Venables, I want to see less of the turnovers, him trying to force throws into tight windows, make plays, throw him back to the opposite side of the field, which is obviously no-nos. Can't miss high over the middle of the field because, as we know, tips and overthrows, what does the defense say? If you've ever been to a football practice, they always say, gotta have them. So that's something Jackson Arnold, if I'm an Oklahoma fan, as the season goes on, hey, I want to see those low turnover marks, those low interception numbers. I'll give up a couple of touchdowns if we're going to keep those interception numbers low. So that's something else I want to keep on, though. But let's get to the schedule. Let me share you the schedule. I actually think it's pretty difficult if I'm being completely honest here. I think you open up with you should be 3-0. Tulane sneaky game. I don't think Houston's going to be great in the Big 12 this year. You should be 3-0. Temple at home, Houston at home, Tulane at home. Then you open up the SEC, the big one. You got Josh Heupel, hometown kid coming back, former national champion, now head coach, as we all know, of the Tennessee Volunteers. Apparently didn't end well there his time in Norman as the OC. So that'll be an interesting one there. Then at Auburn, I don't like where this game is on the schedule for the Sooners. At Auburn, the week after your first SEC game at Memorial Stadium will be rocking against a former player, a little bad blood. So say that's a lot. It's a big emotional game. Win or lose, that's an emotional game. At Auburn, I know Sooner fans hadn't really been there. It's a tough place to play, and I think Auburn's going to be probably undefeated in that game because I think they open up with Arkansas at home. Their first 5 games are at home. I expect Auburn to be 5-0. So I think this is going to be a difficult game because Jordan Hare, when Auburn's good, is a tough place to go play, especially after a highly emotional home game, first league game in Norman. I think that it's a tough spot there. You need to get one of those. You need to get one of those bye week. The Texas fans, I don't need to tell you, you're more familiar with it than SEC fans. The Red River rivalry, Texas, Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. It's always going to be a tough one. Texas will be looking for revenge after Oklahoma getting that big win last year. South Carolina, that's a toss-up game to me, Texas. South Carolina at home, you got to have. At Ole Miss is going to be tough. Maine, you got to have. At Missouri, I think will be tough. Alabama at home will be tough. And at LSU. That's a tough schedule. I said it on social media the other day. I think outside, if you're talking strictly just conference schedule, I think Oklahoma has a tougher schedule than Florida. I know Florida's the easy team, low-hanging fruit. People are like, man, it's a tough schedule. But I think that's factored in because they're playing the big 3 teams in their state, the non-conference schedule you're factoring in. They play Miami, UCF, and Florida State. Yeah, that's a much tougher non-conference schedule than what Oklahoma has. But if you're looking at just the conference SEC games, I don't really see just a total gimme, except, it's kind of wild to say South Carolina is probably your easiest conference game. And look, I'm not high on South Carolina at all. I think they're right in that 5 to 7 win range. But at home, that's the easiest game you got. That's tough there. That's tough there. This is, to me, the hardest conference schedule in the league. Take it to the banks, clip it, cut it, whatever you want to do. This is harder than Florida's conference schedule. I'm dead serious. If Oklahoma were to make the playoffs this year and even lose in the first round, I think Brent Venables is coach of the year in the conference by far. It's a tough schedule here. That's why I think, let's go. You should win all. It's 4, 5. Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're going to say 6, 7, Auburn, Tennessee at home. I mean, if they serve at home, 1, 2, 3, it's 7 guaranteed, and your road conference games are at LSU, at Missouri, at Ole Miss, and at Auburn. Good gracious. And if you were just to split those, getting to 9 is going to be tough. Getting to 9 is going to be tough. Because, I mean, what do you – but again, Oklahoma has a lot of toss-up games they could win, too. There's no definitive losses. This is just an interesting schedule to me. A little bit of loss of words at this guy. You could make a case for them to almost win every conference game, which they're not. You can make a case for them probably losing every conference game outside of South Carolina to me, and that would all make sense. I mean, I think this schedule screams it could be anywhere from 7-5 to 9-3. I mean, I know it's not as big of a gap as I was initially making it, but no, I mean, I think I'd have to say when it's all said and done, I mean, this segment is what is a successful season for Oklahoma in 2024. I think this is the epitome of you got to factor in the 3 things I talked about before on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Do you see improvement as they roll into the main game at the start of November, or really as they head to Columbia on November 9th to face Missouri? Can both sides of the line of scrimmage improve at that point? And then what's Jackson Arnold doing from a turnover standpoint? I mean, I know the touchdowns, the ceiling's going to be there, but can that floor raise where you don't see as many turnovers and putting your team in a bad spot? Because I think the defense is going to get there. That'll be key. But I think if you see those things improve, if you see both lines of scrimmage, if Bill Beatonbow and Todd Bates can get both those sides of the ball, and Miguel Chavis too, get both line of scrimmages going on offense and defense, and Jackson Arnold limits the turnovers, I think, and you throw in a 9-win season, and you're fired up about kind of the future of the Brent Venables version of Oklahoma, tough, tenacity, just kind of a hard-ass team, especially with the way they're building that roster on defense. I think that's a successful season for me. A 9-3 season, just missing the playoffs, but you're seeing improvement on the line of scrimmage in your first year in the SEC, a line of scrimmage league. If you're seeing improvement on that of the roster you built, and you see Jackson Arnold take that next step in her maturation process and limit those turnovers and make smart decisions, I think you take that. I know Oklahoma, blue blood program, they want to be competing for titles. But that's a tough schedule. I only saw one probably guaranteed conference win. You're going to get more than that. But it's that South Carolina game at home is the only one I could legitimately say, yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I'd have a hard time coming up with a scenario where they lose that at home. So I think with that being said, a successful 2024 campaign, first year in the SEC for Brent Venables' third year Oklahoma squad. Improvements on both sides of the line of scrimmage on offense and defense. Like I mentioned, Jackson Arnold raising that floor up, limiting those turnovers. I know those touchdowns are going to be there. And then you give me 9 wins with that tough of a schedule. Again, I'm on record saying toughest conference schedule, toughest SEC schedule goes to the Sooners in 2024. I think 9 wins is a very successful season. But again, I'm your host, Dave Shumate, coming at you from the SEC Unfiltered platform. All SEC things 24/7, 365. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss any of our content. And you have a fantastic day.